All right, welcome back for the Star Trek Rewatch. We do this every Thursday, and this week we have made it up to the episode titled Return to Tomorrow. I will read the entry from the Star Trek Compendium by Alan Asherman here, and then give my thoughts on the episode. So here we go. The writer for this was Gene Roddenberry, the story by John T. Dugan. The director was Ralph Sinensky. Special guest star for this episode is, oh man, Diane Mulder. Yes, Diane Mulder. She plays Dr. Ann Mulhall in this episode. Diane Mulder would return to Star Trek in the second season of Star Trek The Next Generation as Dr. Catherine Pulaski. So, I think this is her first appearance in Star Trek. She does come back for another episode of the series later on, playing a different character. But here we go. Stardate 4768.3. Answering a mysterious SOS from Eret, a planet presumed long dead, Kirk, McCoy, and Dr. Ann Mulhall are transported underground to confront the last three survivors of the world's civilization, Sargon, Thalassa, and Hinnock. They've preserved their conscious minds within containers and have remained in this state for centuries. They now wish to borrow the bodies of Kirk, Spock, and Dr. Mulhall so that they can construct android bodies for themselves to house their consciousness on a permanent basis. Sargon assures Kirk that his people will be safe, their minds encased for a short time within the same containers that Sargon, Thalassa, and Hinnock now inhabit. However, McCoy is concerned about the high metabolic rate necessary for the possession. The real danger, however, is from Hinnock, who has appropriated Spock's body and does not plan on returning it. Hinnock telepathically forces Nurse Chapel to poison Sargon while he is in Kirk's body and then destroys the globe that houses Spock's mind. Fortunately, Spock's consciousness had already left the globe. His consciousness is hidden within the mind of Nurse Chapel. Hinnock is tricked into leaving Spock's body and is destroyed. Sargon and Thalassa vacate the bodies of Kirk and Dr. Mulhall voluntarily, basically consigning themselves to oblivion. Announcing after one last kiss that they will be happy to roam throughout the universe together in their non-corporeal state. All right, so Return to Tomorrow, of course, has the famous scene. The risk, gentlemen, risk is our business, right? The Kirk risk is our business speech, which is probably one of the more famous Kirk monologues from the series, in which he convinces the crew to go along with this experiment, well, not experiment, but the mind transference. um yeah, I think there's a photo here. Show that. There you go, right there. That's Kirk being possessed by Sargon, or I guess the Sargon's mind goes into Kirk's body and Kirk's consciousness goes into the orb. Now, I do want to say one thing about this episode is that it contradicts an earlier episode. So in this episode, we have these three entities of a long extinct civilization that want to construct android bodies for themselves to house their consciousness. However, in season one, we had an episode titled What Are Little Girls Made Of?, in which Dr. Roger Corby had constructed a robot body for himself and was attempting to transfer his consciousness. And Kirk, at the end of that episode, said that Dr. Corby was never here. The implication being that the consciousness, the soul, if you will, is not transferable. This episode directly contradicts that episode. So it's, the Star Trek universe, is this a retcon? I don't know. I don't know which viewpoint holds true. I don't think that the writers of these episodes were trying to have a really hard, so word I'm looking for, cosmology or view of the universe. So yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what Star Trek's cosmological view is. Later on, Gene Roddenberry, when we get to Star Trek The Next Generation and subsequent series, Gene's really like a hardcore atheist position in which everything is just purely science. However, the whole issue of souls and consciousnesses, um, are they transferable? Are they not? I mean, as a professing Christian, Orthodox Christian, I don't believe that the soul can transmigrate into another body. That's kind of one of the problems that I have with the Wheel of Time right now is its strong emphasis on reincarnation. Um, that the body is basically just a container. And that's kind of what this episode implies. I kind of like the earlier episode with Dr. Roger Corby more than this one because it aligns more with like my specific worldview. But it's interesting to have these conversations and these debates, if you will. This episode, it was interesting, but like I said, it contradicts a earlier one. Okay, so not to say that it's good or it's bad. It's just that there's not really like a hardcore cosmology fleshed out here for the Star Trek universe, at least at this point in the series. I do know that later on in the series Picard, um, season 1, if you haven't seen that, this is a spoiler, but Picard transfers his consciousness into an android body. So it would seem to align more with this episode, but for me, I disavow any of the Star Trek after 2005. I don't consider any of it canon. So basically, everything since 2009 doesn't mesh. So I can't point to that as an example of and say, see, this is the cosmology of the Star Trek universe because Picard confirms it. Because that series has major issues. The Kurtzman era does not fit canon. It contradicts itself. So I don't know. This is one of those unresolved issues within the Star Trek universe. Overall, this was a pretty enjoyable episode. I did enjoy it. Nobody dies in this one, so our death count remains at 43. That's it. I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, it's Patterns of Force. So I have nothing else to say. Leave your comments on this one below. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.